I've been fascinated by the imagination and the creativity of film from as early as I can remember as a child. I think that there's a point that happens. It's a transition point where you say, I'd like to try that. I remember at the time in high school I was also in the theater arts department and writing and producing plays and working with neophyte actors at that time. So there was a definite sense of wanting to tell stories, wanting to fulfill that, what I call the narrative drive, the drive to try to tell a story. That's the earliest thing I can remember. And then when I went to college, I actually studied physics. I thought, oh, I'll be a scientist. I'll do something important. And I kind of turned away from filmmaking as something that probably I just thought I can't get there from here. The films are made by other people, sort of these deities, and I don't get to be one of them. So realistically, I'll do something else. And so I actually sort of clipped my own wings, before the fact. It wasn't until years later that I thought, you know what, to hell with it. This is what I should be doing. Film is what I should be doing. So I threw out all those other grand schemes for what my life should be, somewhere around the age of, I think, 24. Just quit my job one day and said, okay, I'm going to be a filmmaker. I'm going to take a run at this. I did work as a truck driver during that period, and it was when I was driving a truck and writing and thinking that perhaps I would be a fiction writer, a prose fiction writer. I would write dramatic fiction or maybe science fiction. That some friends came to me and said, we've got some money lined up to make a little film. Do you have any ideas? They sort of had put the cart before the horse and had fallen into a situation where they had some funding available from a tax shelter group, and they had no film. I said, oh baby, did you make the right phone call? And I immediately sort of took over their project and quit my day job as a trucker, and the next day literally woke up that morning, yawned and stretched and said, now I'm a filmmaker. I mean, ultimately, filmmakers are remembered for their films, most correctly. The private stuff is ultimately irrelevant. It's what made it up on the screen, So I never want to put anything in a film that I'm going to have to feel a little cringe about later. And so far, I haven't. So far, I feel pretty good about the stuff that's made it up on the screen. Maybe not some of the stuff that's on the editing room floor, but the stuff that made it into the final cut. You have to be in an eye-level partnership with your actors, and that's with every actor. That's not just with the stars. That's with every actor. I mean, anybody that's got a moment in your film, no matter how fleeting, is just as important as anybody else in that. Or should I stay on the course of directing now, having gotten fired off my first film? I couldn't get a phone call returned from anybody. I mean, the people at Warner Brothers wouldn't even call me back. Nobody would call me back. I mean, I literally was further removed from the film, from my goals as a filmmaker at that point than I was previously. Because previously, I had potential. Now, I was just a loser. So I realized that the only way I was going to get this thing jump-started is if I created my own project and then held on to it, tenaciously like an abalone until somebody put up the money for it.
That project turned out to be The Terminator.